and also things as minimal as video games that were even affected by this. So if y'all do enjoy the video or learn something new, please consider giving it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and let me know down below in the comments, how old were you and where were you on September 11th, 2001? Number 7, Master of Weapon. Released in 1989, the whole premise of this game is basically after an entire week of a nuclear war on Earth that destroys the global environment, the survivors of the war gather their strength and resources in an attempt to bring the Earth back to the way it was using a supercomputer called the God System. And the survivors start their first step in rebuilding Earth by having the God System create machines capable of cleaning and reconstructing much of what had been lost during the war. However, without warning, a mysterious mutant entity known as N takes over the God System, creates different guardian statues based on Greek mythological figures, manipulates the system, and it attacks mankind. Now, that's the rundown of this game. But what's very, very odd about it is its foreshadowing of September 11th, 2001. So, remember, this game released in 1989, and where it actually foreshadows or maybe predicts what happens in September 2001 is, in the game, you can actually shoot at tall, rectangular office buildings that are sometimes grouped in pairs, much like the Twin Towers. And, well, once you actually shoot these towers, they will collapse or pancake straight down into a cloud of debris after several hits, exactly like what would happen in 2001. But that's not it. It doesn't stop there. What's very, very weird about this is that at the beginning of this game, text displayed on the screen specifies that this game takes place September 11th, 1990X. Number 6, King of the Monsters 2. Released in 1992, the whole plot of this game basically takes place 3 years after the events of the first game, where only 3 monsters have survived what is known in history books as the King of Monsters Massacre. They've become more advanced and dangerous than ever before. But now in 1999, a powerful alien monster and his wave of minions threaten to conquer the Earth. The surviving monsters must defeat the alien menace and once again prove who is the king of the monsters. Now, where this game gets very interesting and possibly foreshadows September 2001 is during one of the first boss fights, the Twin Towers actually make an appearance in this game. Cool, right? Well, they're then taken out and pancake in the exact same fashion that would happen 9 years later. Number 5, Urban Strike. This 1994 classic is actually set in 2001, which is, well, that's pretty creepy. So, just a quick summary of the plot of this game. It's centered around the antagonist, H.R. Malone, a millionaire media mogul, ex-presidential candidate, and fanatic cult leader who promotes a moralistic agenda that will expunge corruption from America and promises that his personal security force will tackle crime. Well, what gets very interesting about this game is somewhere and sometime inside of this game, the World Trade Centers, they make an appearance. They're attacked, and a giant hole appears in the middle of one of the towers with a helicopter trying to rescue people. Now, I'll just go off script here and state the obvious that, yes, the Twin Towers were the rooftop of the New York City skyline for quite some time, which makes them a target and makes them stand out, which is, I understand why this stuff could happen in video games. But what is just oddly coincidental is that this game and another one take place in 2001 and feature these terrible atrocities happening to these buildings in almost the exact same manner as to what would happen in the year 2001 in real life. Number 4, Aero Fighters 2, also released in 1994. This shoot-'em-up arcade game allows you to pilot a jet, and you have the objective of destroying buildings, enemies, armored enemy planes, and on level 4 in this game, you can actually shoot a hole in one of the World Trade Centers, almost recreating what would happen 7 years later. Number 3, Deus Ex. This is one of the more interesting ones in my opinion. This game released in the year 2000, and in one of this game's levels, we can actually explore Liberty Island. And while here, we can see that the Statue of Liberty has been destroyed, as the head is actually on the ground and has been knocked off. Now, we can also take a look around the New York City skyline, and one very interesting thing that we can note is that both of the Twin Towers are absent from this skyline. And remember, this game came out in the year 2000, and it is stated in-game that the Statue of Liberty was destroyed in 1997. Now, what's kind of cool about this and kind of suspicious is that, well, we have two explanations as to why the Twin Towers are absent from this game's skyline. Number 1, the Twin Towers were destroyed by terrorists, which makes sense as the Statue of Liberty is destroyed. And this is from in-game dialogue saying that the Twin Towers were destroyed. The second explanation actually comes from this game's developer. And believe it or not, the developer of this game said, and I quote, "The Twin Towers were removed due to memory constraints." But what's odd about this, and where I think we catch this game developer in a lie, is that this was actually tested out. World Trade Center textures were added to this game, and it ran just fine. There was nothing going on. And I'm not sure, this is my uneducated, just me spewing out the mouth, but this wasn't a real city in the distance. It was textures. It was 2D objects. So I can't see how much more memory that would take up from a game with two other textures added in. But like I said, that's my unofficial, horrible opinion. I'm not a game developer. And also, this was in the year 2000, where we had like 8 megabyte memory cards for the PlayStation. And that was pushing it at the time. Number 2, Command & Conquer Red Alert 2. This game was also released in the year 2000, and, well, this game doesn't predict anything in the game, but on the actual box art for the game, that's where things get a bit interesting. So on the back of the box art, we see a plane flying right towards one of the Twin Towers. We see soldiers parachuting out of the back of this plane, but we've just got this plane headed to a very, very controversial building. And remember, this is in the year 2000 when this came out. Well, it was later replaced with a similar image of things moved around and just from a different perspective, so it didn't look like the plane was flying directly towards this building. Also, the front of this game's cover was also changed. We see a man, and in the reflection of his monocle, I guess you could call it, of them all is a game called Trade Center Defender that released in April 2001. And this was a flash arcade game where players shoot down planes heading towards the towers, and if a plane hit the towers, it would pancake. Now, no traces of this game actually exist in 2019, or none that I could find at least. I tried to find this in 2017, I couldn't. And now in 2019, I still can't. Well, the week of September 11th, 2001, this game was actually removed from the internet and pulled from arcades. And here's a screenshot and the only image that we actually have of Trade Center Defender in existence, like I said, that I could find on the web. It was a bit cartoony. Well, by the end of September 2001, this game was actually remade by a French website entitled New York Defender, where it had the same premise, except it was more realistic. So I'm a guy, I'm all about dark humor. I've got horrible taste in humor, needless to say. I don't get offended by anything really, and I'm not offended by this, but I can say straight up that this game, Trade Center, or New York Defender, was created in bad taste, being that the original was removed the week of September 11th, 2001, and by the end of September 2001, this game was recreated, more realistic, and released. Like, that's some
1993. World Trade Center bombing, remember? During the trial, one of the bombers claimed the CIA had advanced knowledge. The diplomat who issued the terrorist visa was CIA. It's not unthinkable they paved the way for the bombing, purely to justify a budget increase.
You're telling me that you're gonna fake some terrorist thing just to scare some money out of Congress?
Well, unfortunately, Mr. Hennessy, I have no idea how to fake killing 4,000 people. So we're just gonna have to do it for real. Oh, blame it on the Muslims, naturally. Then I get my funding. Good night, old girl. Down to the LBN Shopper 1. Oh, blame it on the Muslims, naturally.
That's a well-hung flagpole.
Thank God. Call the FBI. I'll disarm the other bomb.
Just in the nick of time.
Yep.
Convenient.
Oh, I'd say lucky.
I thought for a while the CIA had arranged the suitcases. Like King Howard's suicide.
Mr. Hale, we only try to do what's right.
Even when it's wrong.
If it's good for America, it can't be wrong. Right?
What's next?
War! These atom bombs on our land constitute an act of war. Undeclared war. Unprovoked war. Started by the bloodiest terrorist of modern history. Arafik, Khan of Hagreb.
What war? What bombs? What the hell? Is he crazy?
Frank Boy,
You did it! You finally did it!
not gonna take it anymore.
You hit him!
You bet.
Hit him with everything you got! But for God's sake, don't hit those oil wells!
John. Dad. What the hell are you doing? Why can't you stay out of this? Leave me buried.
What is Scenario 12D? We know it's a war game scenario, that it has to do with airline counterterrorism. Why is that important enough to kill for?
Because it's no longer a game.
If some terrorist group wants to act out this scenario, why target you for assassination?
Depends on who your terrorists are.
The men who conceived of it in the first place. You're saying our government plans to commit a terrorist act against a domestic airline?
There you go. Indicting the entire government as usual. It's a faction. A small faction.
For what possible gain?
The Cold War's over, John. But with no clear enemy to stockpile against, the arms market's flat. But bring down a fully loaded 727 into the middle of New York City, and you'll find a dozen tin pot dictators all over the world just clamoring to take responsibility and begging to be smart-bombed.
I'm in. We got ourselves a convoy.
What's your progress?
I've hacked into the flight control system output.
With a little bit of help.
It's what the brains of the plane is telling the little black box.
Course, heading, attitude, hold, yaw, axis, stabilization. What the heck's that?
Is that what it looks like?
I think it is what it looks like.
What does what look like?
Modem protocols. Remote access. Somebody on the ground's flying your plane.
Bogey, sir.
Keep your course. We need to know our flight plan.
I'm mapping the data now.
Byers, your flight's gonna make an unscheduled stop in exactly 22 minutes.
Corner of Liberty and Washington. Lower Manhattan.
World Trade Center. I'm going to crash the plane into the World Trade Center.
I'll tell the flight crew.
New York Center, this is Atlantic National Flight 265 Heavy. We are declaring an emergency. We have 110 souls on board, 16,000 pounds of fuel, and no dangerous goods or cargo to report.
Come on, throw Hickey. Your fronts have failed, haven't they?
There's still hope.
Hope my next turnout's as nice as my last one.
We've got manual override.
FBI will go public. With your testimony, we can break this conspiracy wide open, bring Overlord down. The whole operation. Dad, what is it?
God, I see myself in you. The same youthful enthusiasm, idealism. I was so angry at you for so long because I didn't want you to waste your life tilting at windmills. But I see now that you've got something I never had. You're a brave man, John.
You're not going to testify. You're going to let them cover this up.
They almost killed me twice. They won't fail a third time. My silence will keep me alive. And you. I know you and your friends are fighting for the American dream. Just don't expect to win.
To talk today about predictive programming. which is related to my work, as I will explain in a second. So I have a video series actually that's called Decoding the Whole Truth, where I reveal hidden messages in music videos and in TV clips, and I show them on my YouTube channel, Black Magic Media, and I also showed them, for example, at the Moscow Biennale for Young Art and on Austrian television. So how is predictive programming related to my work, and what is it? Predictive programming is a highly controversial hypothesis about manipulation and control in media, and it claims that there are actually events planned years advance in the future, and they are shown to us in big high-budget productions by, well, most of the time it's a talk about big US American productions, in order to familiarize the public with these planned events or huge social changes. And how is it related to my work? Well, as I will show you in a minute, one of the methods I use is I combine academic theory and contemporary cultural theory, and in an experimental and highly unorthodox way, and I combine it with occultism and magic and fringe theory and speculative fiction. The reason why I do this is I think that there are many things and mysteries that cannot fully explained by science and by rational approaches, and I think art is a good way to deal with them. And I don't think that we should shy away from them only because we cannot fully understand them. So predictive programming prepares the public for planned major events. I think this is a highly topical subject because of many events and changes that we witnessed quite recently that nobody of us, or many of us, didn't have thought that this would be possible. And the term, as it is intended, predictive programming, origins in conspiracy theory. So it suggests that there might be, or that there is, a secret world dictatorship that uses black magic in order to attain or maintain their global supremacy, and that they have a master plan, and that they have a very strategic strategy how to get the public to behave how they want them to behave. Well, if that's true like that, I don't know. But what I can say that there are actually measurements and technologies in our everyday lives, in our digital lives, was also outside of that, that in the widest sense can fit this description of preemptive mass manipulation. And of course they don't have spectacular names like predictive programming, but sound rather harmless or cryptic, so you don't really know what these are about, and these are concepts that we are also pretty used to and don't perceive them anymore like this. I'm talking about concepts like advertising, for example, which is used for engineering desire, or also PR. Maybe some of you have seen the movie, I forgot to look at the time. Maybe some of you have seen the movie Century of the Self by Alan Curtis, which deals a lot about the origin of advertising as we know it in war propaganda, where he explained how Edward Benet decided to use the, or he had the thought, if you can use this, these techniques to get the people to go to war, maybe you can also use them to not to go to war. And he used Freud's Freud's theories and actually found the solution in directing the energy of the big public towards consumer capitalism, to put it shortly. Well, other concepts we have heard about a lot discussed lately are Amazon's and Netflix recommendation engines, consumer experience personalization, filter bubbles, or the personalized Facebook news, and of course data mining and strategic communication. So if you see that these type of words, they draw us in different types of worldviews. And I think
Do you want to learn to anticipate a price movement like this one? You're in luck, because this is the video that will change how you see and trade a market. Today I'm showing you how banks and professional traders use volume spread analysis, one of the best leading strategies you could use for trading. And if you want to show your support, please leave a like to help us with YouTube algorithm and turn on the bell so you don't miss when new videos are released. Volume spread analysis is the study of price in relation to its corresponding volume. It basically identifies the underlying reasons behind the market behavior and movement. If a trader anticipates a bearish or bullish movement, then there must be an underlying reason behind it. Volume spread analysis tracks down the professional activity, or the moves of the smart money. Smart money in this context is the big banks, hedge funds and large financial institutions, having hefty pockets to move the markets the way they want. Volume spread analysis eliminates subjectivity from trading, because while prices can be manipulated by professional activity, volumes can't. Thereby, volume spread analysis is one of the best ways to understand market psychology and sentiments. The volume spread analysis can be used in any market like forex, stocks, indices, commodities and futures. Some traders might argue that in forex volumes are useless. However, forex has tick volumes, which is proxy to real volumes, and correlates it 90% of the time. And yes, the volume spread analysis methodology can also be applied to any time frame. Wyckoff's volume spread analysis is one of the best methods to analyze a market because it's non-subjective. It's not prone to smart money manipulation, as the method itself is used for detecting smart money activity, and it figures out the underlying reasons behind the market movements and also understands the cause of imbalance between supply and demand. First, let's see the components of the volume spread analysis. We have the spread, which is the difference between opening and closing of the price. Then the volume, which is the frequency of transaction of the price change during a specified period of time. Then the bearish and bullish volume. Bearish volume is marked in red, and it shows bearish activity, and bullish volume is marked in green, and it shows bullish activity. Then we have above average high volume. Above average high volume is the highest volume in the current session, which is higher than the average volume. Average volume is the volume that coincides with the 20 moving average of the volume indicator. Then we have the ultra high volume. The ultra high volume is the highest volume in the current session. It is higher than the previous peak volume. There are 4 stages of volume spread analysis based on Wyckoff theory. The accumulation. This occurs when supply and demand are imbalanced to each other after a markdown move. The markup, and this occurs when demand becomes more than supply, causing an upward bullish rally after the accumulation process. Then the distribution, and this occurs when supply and demand are in balance after an exhausted markup move. And the markdown, which occurs when supply becomes more than demand, causing a downward drop after the distribution phase. Watch this video if you want to know more details about the Wyckoff method. There are 2 major applications of the volume spread analysis, namely tracking the sign of weakness and tracking the sign of strength. Sign of weakness occurs when the demand is exhausted, meaning the buyers are exhausted after the uptrend, and the supply increases, meaning more sellers come in. This imbalance between supply and demand causes the market to fall. Sign of strength occurs when supply is exhausted, meaning the sellers are exhausted after a downtrend, and demand increases, meaning more buyers come in. This imbalance between supply and demand causes the market to rise. Now let's talk about the different types of sign of strength. First, the down thrust. The down thrust is the bullish pin bar or the doji bar having an ultra high volume or an above average high volume. The spread of the down thrust bar is extremely low. Meanwhile, the volume is relatively high. The volume spread analysis suggests that if the spread is low, then the volume should also be low. In this case, there is a divergence between spread and volume, which signifies that there is more demand than the supply, causing price to rise in the near future. Number 2. The selling climax. The selling climax is the high spread bearish candle, closing well off the lows, having a noticeable downward rejection wick projected on ultra high or above average high volume. The high spread rejection on low volume anticipates that the market will rise because there is more demand than supply. The selling climax has a downward wick whose size is 25 to 50% of the candle's body size. Number 3. The bearish effort is lower than the bearish result. This is a high spread bearish candle whose spread is larger than the previous candle's spread, but its volume is lower than the previous candle's volume. The volume spread analysis suggests that if there has been no effort made, then there should not be any result. This disagreement between price and volume increases demand and reduces supply, causing the market to rise in the future. An effort, which is the volume, has not been made, but there is a result, which is the spread. Number 4. Bearish effort higher than bearish result. This is a low spread bearish candle, having spread lower than the previous candle's spread, but its volume is higher than the previous candle's volume. In this case, there is a disagreement between volume and price, resulting demand to become more than the supply and causing price to rise in the near future. An effort has been made, the volume, but there is no result, the spread. Number 5. No supply bar. This is a low spread bearish candle having downward wick, whose volume is lower than the previous two candles' volumes. No supply bar means there is a lack of supply, and demand is overpowering supply, causing price to rise in the future. Please note that no supply bar is a continuation signal and not a reversal signal. No supply bar is effective only if it appears after bullish momentum or appears after a sign of strength in the direction of the trend.
The master pattern indicator is the only smart money concepts indicator you will ever need. It is a unique, non-repainting specialty software designed around smart money trading concepts. Why the master pattern? In order to win in trading, you first need to understand how money is lost. If 90% of traders consistently lose money, you could win by doing the opposite. The master pattern is a tool that will save a new trader thousands of dollars and hours because it immediately gets them focused on what is important, trading against the masses. You will learn in this video how this indicator works, its settings, walking you through every component, and how to trade with the master pattern indicator. This smart money indicator displays contraction boxes, minor expansion lines, major expansion lines, and liquidity lines. It allows traders automatically mark up their charts with the master pattern concepts methodology, which is overlooked by 90% of retail traders who consistently lose. Here is a breakdown of the principles. Our software marks out the contraction boxes for you. It shows you the major expansion lines, the minor expansion lines, and the valid liquidity lines. It automatically plots all of these price sensitive levels on your chart on any time frame, making you a master chartist even if you are just starting out with smart money concepts. It marks out all of these levels, which I'll go into more detail, but you can see price respects these levels. You will be amazed at how accurate this information is in terms of understanding the direction of the market, the structure of the market, and learning to trade like the banks. Our indicator comes with customizable settings, so you can change the color of the major boxes, the minor boxes, major expansion lines, minor expansion lines, and liquidity lines, which I'll go into more detail now. It automatically marks out the contraction boxes, which is one of the most important phases of the market to become aware of. This is a leading indicator. It shows you when price goes into this contraction phase. As soon as we get the simultaneous lower high and higher low, the contraction boxes represent the beginning of the smart money accumulation and distribution cycle. It signals incoming volatility, which allows you to predict what is going to happen next. It marks out all the simultaneous high and low points on the chart on any time frame for you. These contraction boxes let you know that price is going into the first phase of the market. There are two types of contraction boxes. We got minor boxes, which are called minor expansion lines, and major boxes, which are called major expansion lines. A minor box occurs when we get this contraction phase happening and price only breaks out of one of the sides of the boxes. This is a minor expansion line. The major box occurs when price breaks above and below. We call this a major expansion line. This signifies to us the manipulation phase in the market. This is the phase where most of the retailers get liquidated. Minor expansion lines. When price breaks out of only one side of the box, we call this a direct breakout expansion leg, where price can break out of the contraction box and go straight into the trending phase. Our indicator immediately marks out these levels for you. So as you can see, we get a minor box being created here. It marks it out. Price breaks out of the box and it creates this minor expansion line. You can see price respects it as a friction level before reversing into this demand zone. Major expansion lines. Expansion lines represent true market value. They give you exact profit targets and risk management points, and they do not repaint. As you can see here, price goes into this contraction phase. It breaks above and below the box. This confirms the major expansion lines. This immediately gives us a framework, a positioning of where we can enter our trades with precision and accuracy to always be on the right side of the market. Major expansion lines are also known as value lines. These are valuable price points where the institutions balance their books and reveal whether they will move the price higher or lower. So as you can see, we get extremely valuable insight from knowing where these levels are located. Liquidity lines. These represent traders' stop loss levels. These levels can be used to get in or out of the market. As you can see, price goes into this contraction phase. It breaks above and below, which would confirm this as a major expansion line. At each point, our indicator will show you where these valid liquidity lines appear. These become excellent places to take profits, to get out of your trades. So for instance, if you entered down here, you would exit your trade over here. Or you would think about entering a short position over here and a long position over here. You therefore become clear with your trading decisions. Liquidity lines are the architecture of where the masses will make a mistake in the market, showing you where large pools of liquidity are resting. These lines reveal the maximum pain points of the markets. Since 90% of traders lose, your number one key to winning is learning where the masses will make a mistake in the market. And this is the exact points where you want to look to enter your trades. Every component of the master pattern is designed to give you deep insight into the actual price sensitive levels where price will react. All together, they give you a map-like structure that will help you predict short and long-term moves with a high level of accuracy. As you can see over here, we have everything plotted out at once. We have the liquidity lines, we have the major expansion lines, and the minor. And you can see how price is respecting these lines. Price comes up, breaks the liquidity line, you enter a short position here. Price breaks this liquidity, you start looking for a long position. It immediately gives you clarity when looking at your charts, knowing where and when to enter and where and when to exit. It provides an accurate map-like structure to help make sense of the seemingly randomness of the market and shows you how to align your trades with the institutions who move the market. The master pattern is the secret to emulate the bank's trading strategy. Now, how do you trade with the master pattern concepts? Here is a short example. We only need 2 time frames to trade with this strategy. A higher time frame over here, which is our 4-hour, and a lower time frame, which is our 12-minute. Doesn't matter what time frame, as long as you've got a higher time frame and a lower time frame. On the higher time frame, we use this major expansion line as a gauge whether to enter long or short positions. In this example, you can see price has settled below the 4-hour expansion line, which means our bias is short. We therefore come over here to a lower time frame and we start looking for these counter trend entries above the expansion line. So since price is below the higher time frame expansion line, we want to have short entries above the expansion lines on the lower time frames. Here is a long example. Price is settling above the expansion line on the higher time frame. Therefore, our bias is long. We jump over to a shorter time frame, which is a 5-minute over here, and we're looking for long entries below the expansion lines. It doesn't get more simple than that. The major expansion line is also known as the value line. And the higher time frame value line is a barometer as to what direction the market makers are going to drive the price. So as you can see, this 4-hour expansion line or value line, price is settling below it, which means our bias is short. We come to a lower time frame and we want to look where our value lines are located on the lower time frame. Since our bias is short, we're looking for short entries above the value line, which makes our entries counter trend entries. Once you understand how and why it actually works, You will align your trading strategy with the strategy of the institutions, the banks, the market makers. These are the people who are driving and moving the market. The value line is the key. It is the 0 point of the market makers. It gives accurate information about their trading decisions and highlights the trend bias, where and when to enter your trades with accurate precision. Let's have a look at this indicator live on the charts. The master pattern strategy. I'm going to share a strategy with you right now that is so simple, that is so easy to do, and you will end up on the right side of the market more often than not by following it exactly the way I'm explaining it. I also want to say that it's not necessary to have this indicator. You can mark out these levels by hand, and I've shared that in a few of my previous videos on how to do that. I like to start with 2 time frames. It's all you really need. I have one higher time frame over here, either the daily, the 4-hour, or the 1-hour. And I have a lower time frame on this side, either the 15-minute, 5-minute, or 1 minute. If I'm trading the daily over here, I'm trading the 15-minute over here. If I'm trading the 4-hour over here, I'm trading the 5-minute over here. And if I'm trading the 1-hour over here, I'm trading the 1 minute over here. So you have your higher time frame to analyze, to look for those perfect opportunities of when is the best time to enter a trade. And then we have the lower time frame over here to help get you precise entries into those trades. I like to use the Heiken candles on the higher time frame because they give me a more accurate idea of the trend. And then the normal candles over here. Let us put on the master pattern. Now we have the master pattern on the lower time frame as well. The first thing we want to do is we want to look at our higher time frame because everything is based on the higher time frame. The best opportunities you'll get to enter trades with the highest possibility of making good profits and low risk is by entering trades close to the expansion line on the higher time frame. For example, just looking at this 4-hour chart now, the best opportunities to enter a trade would have been right here when price is very close to the expansion line, right here when it's rejecting off the expansion line, and right here. You want to pay close attention to when price comes close to an expansion line on the higher time frame, and you can notice it's starting to settle on the higher time frame. And you can see that by looking at the rejection wicks. Can you see clearly these rejection wicks into the expansion line, and over here wicks into the expansion line, and over here you can see this indecision candle, which is also representing a reversal. But the example I really want to go into more detail is this specific region. This is an actual trade that I took myself. When I start my day, I open my charts and I start going through all the charts on the higher time frame, and I look for the ones that are closest to the expansion line. Not always, but specifically for this strategy, I do that. This strategy is designed if you want to catch big moves and you want to actually ride the trend either up or down, depending on whether it settles above the expansion line or settles below the expansion line. Over here, price settled above the expansion line. As soon as I noticed this rejection into the expansion line over there, it was a confirmation to me that price was settling above the expansion line, above the value line, and that the market makers want to drive the price upwards now. This line represents the 0 point of the market makers. So when you see price settling above it, it is a validation that they want to drive the price up. If you see price settling below it, it's a validation they want to drive the price down. And this all happens on the higher time frame analysis. Once we confirm our bias here as long, then we can jump into the lower time frame and we can start looking at these precise entries. So we have our bias sorted on the higher time frame. We come here onto the lower time frame. Since I'm on a 4-hour over here, I want to come onto a 5 minutes on the lower time frame. And what I've done is this expansion line over here where we can see price is settling, I've marked it out over here on the lower time frame, so we can see it's exactly the same as this line over here. Then I go purely onto the lower time frame. Now I'm looking for long entries, but how it works with the master pattern is that the entry points on the lower time frame are counter entries. So I'm looking to only enter long positions when price is below a lower time frame expansion line. You can see price breaks above this 4-hour expansion line and it's starting to settle. So I could have actually taken an entry either at any place below this expansion line or at any place where a liquidity line gets broken. So over here, we're looking to enter long positions, which means it's going to break a liquidity line underneath the expansion line. We could have entered a position here. And if you want to also take it to another level, we can start marking out demand zones. So we would start looking for long entries anywhere in this region over here. You can see price is broken above. Over here, we have this break in structure. It's settling above. But over here would have been a prime example. As we start to notice these rejections into this line over here, that could have been an entry. This could have been an entry. And this area could have been an entry. We could have done multiple entries because we're looking to ride this 4-hour move up, which is a massive trend on a lower time frame. So we could have entered a position there, entered a position here, entered another position here. We could break up our entries into multiple positions. And then let's see what price does. Boom. As you can see, this is the strategy of the master pattern. This is how it works. We get this contraction box, price breaks below and above. We get this whipsaw action above and below price until it goes into the third phase. Got the contraction box, phase 1. Then we've got the expansion phase, which is phase 2. And then we know after the expansion phase is going to come the trending phase. And that's the trending phase over there. But everything is based on this higher time frame analysis. We could see price was settling above the contraction zone. Confirms to us that price is going up. So we're looking for longs on the lower time frame. We're looking for long entries below the lower time frame expansion line, either at liquidity breaks or at demand zones. This is a super easy and effective strategy to follow, and it has an extremely high win rate. If you have any more questions about how the strategy works, how this indicator works, I have a course that teaches all the information. You can check below, and there's the actual indicator which you can purchase or rent from the Smart Money Trader group.